Yeah, we've been told as recently as this year, as January of this year, that the physician pay metric is at 1990 levels.
Jeez.
Wow.
So while everybody else has moved decently along with consumer price index and the general economy, physicians are stuck at 1990 pay levels. If you looked at what they were making in 90 to what they're making now, and that's the hard reality. So they aren't making more. They're being pressed on all sides. And so when it comes to a real estate deal, having a group who gets that, who understands how you get paid, it just, it matters to be able to put that in a bigger picture and understand that real estate can absolutely become an anchor on their practice. And we've watched it, send a couple of physicians into bankruptcy because of bad real estate decisions. And that's painful. It should never happen.
Shouldn't
Yeah.
happen.
And it sounds so simple, right? Bring the what, the how, the why all into the equation when making those decisions. But you're absolutely correct in the normal sequence of things, right? It's I need a space like this. All right, let's go find it. But you
Right.
guys taking a step back, saying, all right, do you really need this? It's great. It's great service to provide to physicians.
All right, welcome to another episode of Blueprints to Punch List. I'm Dave Grosz, my co-host Ken Fulmer.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ken.
Morning.
And today we have, all the way from Birmingham, Alabama, Nancy Ferren and Rich Campbell with Veritas Medical Real Estate Advisors. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And just a quick intro. Before we dive into that, Nancy, you and I connected at a conference that we were at last year, and it was actually in a breakout session, and you had stood up during a Q&A and had so many great points that you really stood out with your knowledge of medical real estate. And so after the show, I came up to you and just that's how we got introduced. And I'm really glad I did, because I think you guys are a unique group doing some pretty cool things in the medical real estate space. So again, just been really looking forward to having you guys on and having this conversation. So
Yeah.
just welcome again.
Well, thanks. And thanks for the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So quick intro, Veritas, you guys, as I said, you're out of Birmingham, and you handle all the capabilities necessary to represent medical clients through all stages of commercial real estate transactions, founded in 2009. And just want to start off, we start off all these podcast episodes the same way. What is a recent win that you guys have had in the last month or two? And it could be a business win, a family, health, anything to that nature.
Outside of the fact that we are both incredibly blessed with awesome families and really blessed beyond means to enjoy our teammates and have a lot of fun at work. So we're always, I know it sounds kind of goofy, but we really are, for the most part, always happy, and consider our partnership with our third partner, Peter Jameson, just a fun family environment. So that's always a win, at least for me, every day. I think Nancy probably rolls her eyes and has to struggle every day with like brothers. But outside of that, I think Nancy can probably touch on some wins for the theory of our company and for what we do.
So we were we're kind of talking about some of the wins, and to sound as, I don't know, Pollyanna, as Rich just said, as far as how we feel as a family, we've had a lot of wins. I mean, a lot of good things of doing some readaptive uses of some really cool old buildings and bringing new life, doing some historic credit work, and getting that done. In fact, I think, Dave, you and I talked about that in one of, after that session, But of late, one of our biggest wins, and our business partner Peter brought this up when we were talking about, what's a great win we've had. And he and I were on a call with an architect out of Ohio. We generally work with architects, within our
Local to the project.
yeah, local to the project. Very good. And this one is not, because he was brought in by a consultant, done a great job, et cetera. But not knowing how we do things in Birmingham or in Alabama, or locally, and contractor bids it, and it is quite over what we thought the build out would be for these two docs going into a new practice all on their own.
Double-ish.
Startup. Yes, double. And so
That's always fun.
we get on the phone to do some value analysis and value engineering. And, I'm going through, and I had done my homework the night, before, to kind of go through with the contractor of what could we, what's exorbitant in this case. And we were able to value engineer this project by over $100,000. And as we're doing it, I'm getting a text from one of the physicians that says, "Thank you for being my advocate." He's paid this consultant that does this special OBL, office-based lab type concept. He was dependent upon them, and all of a sudden we became, I guess, his champion, because we were able to look at it through our medical lens and through our experience and say, "Hey, here's how we take this down. Here's how we make this a better fit."
Awesome.
That's awesome. And $100,000 is a lot of money in any way you slice that. So to be able to find that, because value engineering projects is not always easy.
No, and in today's climate, it seems we do a lot of that.
Oh yeah. Especially keeping the project intact, right? What the
Right.
doctors are looking for, what they need, what they want. Doing, kind of achieving both those things is best case scenario.
Mhm.
Very cool. Well, again, before we kind of get into some of the other topics, could you guys share just a little bit about how Veritas got started?
Yeah, our pleasure. So Veritas, as you mentioned in the intro, is unique in that we're staffed, and our partnership, Nancy has a clinical background with nursing and medical devices and pharmaceuticals. So a diverse clinical background and medical background. I've got a background for 25 years in commercial real estate, have always had a concentration in either life sciences or classic clinical medicine. Worked in the DC market for a while, which was heavy in life sciences, and moving to Birmingham, life sciences and biotech were not as commercialized here. And so I shifted a little bit to having a concentration of medical clients in the area. And I think what we have discovered with absolute certainty from 2009 to now, as Nancy and Peter joined the team, and others have come around us to support the model, is that general commercial real estate is a world that lives in gray matter. And for the most part, practitioners are focused on the physical real estate deals themselves. So if you're a developer, you're focused on the land acquisition or the turn, the ability to develop something and then to spin it out and sell it. So merchant build. If you are a broker, you are focused on the transaction itself. If you have been asked to lease something for a client, to find a space to lease, or if you've been asked to purchase something, you are focused on that transaction. That's where you get paid. You don't get paid until the deal gets done. And so physicians groups will come to the commercial real estate community, and oftentimes with their higher levels of intelligence and typically higher levels of confidence, they will come to the commercial real estate community and say, "This is what I want," or "This is what I need." And the commercial real estate brokers say, "Okay, Dr. Jones, okay, Dr. Johnson, we've got you covered there. We'll take care of you. We're great brokers. We've got years of experience. We're going to lead you down the right path." But it's always responsive and on the real estate deal. So our world, the commercial real estate world, has never been motivated to stop a deal, to look at physicians and say, all right, wait a second. Why do you think you're in a growth mode? Why do you think you want to own? Why do you think you want to go into a new construction project? What does your ownership of the practice look like? How many owners? How many associates? How many mid-levels? How old are you? Are you a 41-year-old physician really in the sweet spot, starting up with 2 decades in front of you? Or are you 61 and all of your commitments going forward, whether it's leasing or buying, need to be gauged against your practice life cycle and your succession planning for the practice? How big are you? What specialty are you? What market are you in? And so our world was just not motivated and not trained to say, wait a second, we need to fully understand the actual clinical needs, not the real estate needs, not the dynamics of what you say you want, but what does the clinic really need to thrive? What does the clinic really need to provide the best patient experience to allow for the best recruitment of your own staff as possible and the best life balance for you, the physician or physicians? Let's take a look at the much bigger picture, fully understand it, and then say, okay, what real estate, if any, needs to be executed on to accomplish that? And so again, the general world is not focused on that. They don't have the training, they don't have the teammates to really understand those things. And so over the years, we could say until we're blue in the face, hey, we're different. We're honest. We're gonna treat you right. And brokers, commercial brokers, residential brokers across the country, I think that when they do polls across the country, the confidence rating in the integrity of the real estate industry is not very high. So there are great, honest people in the industry. We know tons of them, but industry-wide, the reputation is not solid. So we knew that we had to turn the business on its head a little bit and do things differently and say, look, if we have assembled this team and this model with this incredible expertise, then we have to find the best way to deliver that to the physician so that they've got confidence in our abilities and they've got confidence in our motivations, that they know what we're doing and why. And so we established Veritas Medical Real Estate Advisors to say, look, we are on your team. We become your internal real estate officer. We give you unbiased advice, and we don't care whether there's a real estate deal in it or not. We care that the best solution for the clinical needs of the practice and the physicians is found. And sometimes that means there's no real estate deal. Nancy can go in and assess clinical flow and a growth plan and say, gosh, you're just out of whack in how you physically function, right? So let's change that, make these adjustments, and go from there. And you stay right where you are, and you don't go do a real estate deal. So we get paid for that unbiased advice and can protect our clients and take care of them in a way that they feel like we are an attorney who solely represents them or a CPA who solely represents them, and it removes the real estate out of the equation. So one of our mantras is the practice always comes first, real estate is second. Do not let the tail wag the dog. And our industry, for the most part, is the tail wagging the dog when it comes to medical real estate. And so we decided to, we don't have listings. We don't have any properties out there we represent. So our job is solely for the benefit of the physicians, so much so that we very rarely work for hospital systems or larger organizations, because the physicians, the independent groups, are really the ones who need the most help.
And so we do come from that, like, in a consultative approach. So unlike, and just to kind of clarify that a little bit, brokers get paid when a deal is done. We approach it from consulting first, which is an hourly rate not to exceed. There's a reason for that not to exceed, which I want to touch on, as well as we're able to go in and really get to know the practice. And the importance of that is a developer brought this up to us, who's doing a deal with us right now, and new construction, as you know, is out crazy. It's
crazy,
over the
yeah.
top. Interest rates, everything is making new construction
Untenable.
much harder to
Mhm.
achieve, right? And the developer looked and said, well, I mean, they'll just have to make more revenue. I mean, it is what it is, and that's okay if you're an attorney or if you're a CPA or if you are in some business where you can say, each client equals this amount, and I can just build that
Change
more.
my rate.
Yeah, change my rate or up my client. Go recruit, get some more clients in. Physicians can't do that because they're going to be paid by reimbursement. Unless they are a cash paying concierge group, which those tend to be very small, those are not large groups. Um, they are held by what they're going to get paid, regardless of how much they do, and that keeps going down every year. It doesn't increase. Our insurance companies and government funding doesn't say, "Hey, you've done a great job last year. Let me give you a little bit more for that surgery." No, each year it's coming down, as well as um, what is payable, right? Whether it's inpatient or outpatient or in office or out of office. So it's really important with physicians groups to know all of that information and to be able to be up to date with what is the market so that, excuse me, when you are going into a property, you can prepare for that. What ancillary services that you might could bring in that would help this, because a new build is all that they can do, or they really do need the 100,000 square foot renovation. So it's it's just a lot more convoluted than your typical, I guess, business, if
Yeah,
you will.
we've been told as recently as this year, as January of this year, that the physician pay metric is at 1990 levels.
Jeez.
Wow.
So while everybody else has moved decently along with consumer price index and the general economy, physicians are stuck at 1990 pay levels. If you looked at what they were making in 90 to what they're making now, and that's the hard reality. So they aren't making more. They're being pressed on all sides. And so when it comes to a real estate deal, having a group who gets that, who understands how you get paid, um, it just,
That's not one.
it matters to be able to put that in a bigger picture and understand that real estate can absolutely become an anchor on their practice. And we've watched it, send a couple of physicians into bankruptcy because of bad real estate decisions. And that's painful. It should never happen.
Shouldn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple, right? Bring the what, the how, the why all into the equation when making those decisions. But you're absolutely correct in the normal sequence of things, right? It's I need a space like this. All right, let's go find it. But you
Right.
guys taking a step back, saying, all right, do you really need this? That's great. It's great service to provide to physicians.
And there's so much to unpack with what you just said there, because and again, this is why I was really excited and looking forward to talking with you guys, because you do it from such a unique perspective. This approach of let's look at the clinic and the practice as a whole, not just say, hey, we want to get a bigger space. Well, how did this all start? How did this become or how did you notice there's a need for this, and kind of just take us through that, because I'd love to understand just the process of, okay, like what was maybe the first time of you're looking at a deal with that physicians group and going, wait a minute, there is so much more to unpack here, and maybe you don't need that real estate, but let's look at your operations as a whole and figure out how we can help you there.
Right. Yeah. Great question. It was very specific. It came down to one deal, really, a cardiovascular group that we worked with years and years ago. My guess would have been in the 2009 or 10 range, kind of right in the beginning. And they came to us and said, we want to buy that piece of land and build a 25,000 square foot building. We need 25,000 square feet. And this was clearly in those times, this was pre-COVID. Money was still readily available. And so new construction compared to an existing facility has always been a bit of a disparity, but still affordable. You could still justify it. And they were just convinced that they wanted to be owners because owning real estate is the next evolution. It's my retirement. It's the thing that lets me know I've really made it. Everybody else owns their real estate. I don't want to throw rent away to this landlord anymore. I want to go build a building and own it. And so without our model in place, we went and took the same theory and the approach and said, wait a second. And over about a 4-month period, worked with their entire ownership group. So board, when they would have their executive committee meetings, we would go and sit in on those meetings and work them through. Here's what it means to go build. Here's what it means if you want to be the owner of that asset. For each one of you individually, the amount of cash that you will need. Here are the expectations of the performance of that cash over the long run. And all the while, you have the ability, I'm convinced you've got the ability to renegotiate where you are right now to maintain a level of occupancy cost here, this lower level of occupancy cost, right? And if you go build, you're at this higher level of occupancy cost. And so the delta between the two is X. Now, you're hampering the practice's performance with that delta, and you think that you're creating your retirement and lining your pockets, except that a group of 10 of you, 6 of the 10 are north of 60, right? So the what you think you're going to get out of it, I think that your next generation might, if you've got the right operating agreement and it gets passed down to your children, they'll see a real benefit out of it, but I'm not sure that you'll see the benefit that you think you will. And here are some alternative uses of that cash and the performance that you might receive on those alternative uses. Now, when you match that up against the lower occupancy cost of the practice, so you've got now a thriving practice that's got this cost of occupancy that's less than 5% of your gross revenue. So a really healthy practice, and you've got these alternative uses for your money. I would argue that that's probably a smarter investment decision. And at the end of 4 or 5 months, they all kind of looked at me and said, you know what? You're right. We've got no business doing that. And so they stayed exactly where they were.
Them out of the deal, essentially, of that new build.
Say again?
So essentially you talked them out of that new build. And while you were still a commercial real estate broker, essentially,
no fee, no money. We did not have the setup that we've got today. So I was paid nothing. And it was one of those moments where we really were able to exercise what I think God has put inside of us, which is this desire to serve, this desire to take care of people and do what is right. And so when you do that, it's never been about the money. And so that example was, well, okay, I just walked away from a 6-figure fee, but I did the right thing. And that client is incredibly happy. They had a fantastic real estate decision. They never went and built. And so that practice is still around and doing well. And so the very next physician that we went to talk to, we pulled a Southwest Airlines on the back of a napkin, kind of wrote out, hey, I think we should charge for this. And went to the physician and said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to pay us for unbiased advice. We don't care what you do in terms of a real estate deal. We just want to make sure that it's the right decision for you and for the practice. And we can execute whatever your decision is or not. And the guy took about 15 seconds and he goes, yeah, that sounds great. Okay. And we kind of thought, well, oh, all right. So now, just that responsiveness of, hey, I get it. Like I'm totally willing to pay you to get unbiased advice and not to shove me into a real estate deal. And that's really, those two clients are what started everything. It was the work really hard for 4 to 5 months and walk away from a massive fee, and then turning around and going to the next group and saying, hey, we're going to handle this a little bit differently. How does this sit with you? And with zero hesitation, yeah, great, we get it. Our community is going to get this. And it's been since, I think, very rewarding and proven that we love working with these groups when they get it. It's also given us the ability to ferret out when a group comes to us and looks at us with a little bit of a tilted head and a closed eye and says, I don't know about paying you. I think what I really want is this. Can you just go do that for me? We have actually said, hey, we've got great relationships in the community where we can put you with just a broker who will take care of you. They're honest, they're amazing, but there is no sense in you paying us if the die is cast. If you really feel like this is what you want to do, then there's no sense in paying us. You're just going to go do a brokerage deal.
Right. Your guys' service at that point is not what he's looking for, or not what they need at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we decided, so at that time when those two deals happened, we did, in all fairness, we were doing commercial real estate and medical real estate. We had two arms of our company, right? And when I came on board, I was only going to be concentrating on the medical real estate. I didn't really have any interest in doing the commercial. Dave, I think I told you this. I had come out of retirement. I mean, it was just kind of the next gig, and this was going to be fun. And it took us about 6 months after I came on board that we all sat down and said, it's time to make it. It's time to take a leap of faith. And at that point, we closed all of our commercial side and only have done medical, to the point where, and Rich said it would never happen. He told me I was very naive, and he may not have called me smart at the time. But I said, if we keep doing this, if we stay true to our mission, other brokers are going to contact us. And he said, sweet little Nancy, you just hadn't been doing this.
That's not how the world works.
Not how it works. And I will say, at this point, we actually do have brokers. I was on the phone with a broker yesterday in Memphis who said, hey, next time I have a medical deal, I'm calling y'all. I want you to handle it. And so we'll fee share with brokers. We're not here to, say we are the only people that can handle this. We are saying we are the experts at handling this. So we can partner with those to be it developers or brokers to kind of walk this path.
Awesome. So, I mean, and you guys have kind of somewhat alluded to bits and pieces here, but just want to really nail down, like, what does the process look like for you guys when you bring somebody in, or when somebody comes to you looking to expand or build new? Kind of what is your guys' process that you take them through to determine, all right, this is the direction for you?
If this wasn't a podcast, we could visually show you the process. That's something that we've been working on, is that we think that the market responds visually way better. And when we say the market, any of us, all of us like looking at pictures rather than reading a bunch of text. So we actually put our process down on kind of a front and back sheet of paper that we can hand to clients and say, this is who we are and how we work. But Nancy can kind of take you through how it happens.
So when a client calls us, we will set up an initial meeting. Sometimes that's virtual, especially in today's world. A lot of that is virtual, actually. And we want to onboard that client first. onboarding consists first of setting up the relationship, and we work under a memorandum of understanding. As you know, that is a non-legally binding document that just says, "Hey, I'm going to work for you. I've got your best interests at heart, and you agree that I'm doing this." It even says in here two things that we get laughed at a lot, and when I tell you a lot about. One is it says that that we have a fee guarantee, that at any given time, if you feel like we have not um, taken care of you, we will refund your money. We'll give it back. And then the second is it says, point blank, that this relationship can be dissolved at any time either party says. So
Wow.
literally, it's worth the paper it's written on, depending on who you ask, right?
Yeah.
So we start with a memorandum of understanding. We ask for patient demographics or patient zip codes to run demographic studies.
Demographic study is mapped.
Yes, and we do the heat maps for that. Sorry.
And
we want to know what they're.
Sorry to interrupt, but just want to catch that what you said before with those two guarantees as one, because today's that it's a guarantee that how can they say no to?
Well,
right?
And you're right about that. And to date, knock on wood, we have not had anyone that has taken us up on that guarantee. But I have to admit fully that we have had one client that we exercise that guarantee. And Rich was talking about the physician who says, "I want this," and "Hey, no, I don't want to pay you. I just want this." We had a physician that was paying us, and really, he didn't need us. He really had his mind set up, or mind made rather, of this is how it was going to be. We were providing no value, and we literally, and some of the decisions we didn't 100% agree with. None of them were bad necessarily. We weren't in agreement, and we just said, we're not of benefit to you. And so here's your money. Thank you. We wish you the best of luck. We'll check in. If you ever need us, call us, but we are not providing value. And so the only time that guarantee has been exercised, honestly, is by us. And we will continue doing that. And that's not because this gentleman was not a great person. It was just we really could not provide good service to him in our conscience. So you're right. So you would think that would that would say, why wouldn't I do that? But of course, I think we are a little jaded in this world of, everything has a 30-day, 90-day money back guarantee, and you don't read the fine print. So we still have to verbalize that a lot. The other thing in that memorandum of understanding, when you said it's hard to say no, is we have learned, especially in the medical world, everything is very budget driven, right? Because you kind of know, if I've got this many surgeries or this many patients per month, this is going to be my estimated revenue. This is what I've got to pay my overheads, et cetera, right? Everything is very fine tuned to monthly or quarterly budget. And we decided that we would charge an hourly fee, but not to exceed a flat fee. So anything will roll over to the next month, but never, ever will you pay more than this amount of dollars per month to us. And that's also helps the practice manager then budget and not have to go to the docs and go, hey, we had a practice manager send an email that they had an attorney's bill for $16,000 that they were like, what? We don't ever want to be that person. We don't want to be that person sending you a bill that you're kind of going, oh my, I can't pay this.
So we're trying to take elements that in our collective years of business, and I know that you guys have got the same thing in your collective years of business. You can pay attention to your clients, you can pay attention to your competitors, to who is doing things right, and not often who is doing things wrong, but what tends to become a barb to the client. Where do clients kind of say, gosh, that was frustrating that I just got this big bill, it doesn't mean that the attorney wasn't working.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're not worth it. But we've noticed over time that that's a hard thing to absorb. And so for us to look at a client and say, you can budget us and know guaranteed that you'll pay no more than this in any given year, or month, goes a long way. Even if we put a lot more work in than that, it's just delayed for us. It's we're spreading it out, and we go ahead and do that on the front end because we know it's a barb to people. It's a barb to everybody. It's a barb to us when I hire somebody and get that unexpected bill, right?
Yeah. Just the budgetary concerns and the unexpected, right? Planning for one thing and then all of a sudden surprise.
Yeah, for
makes
sure.
a big difference. So, and you were kind of at that initial phase. You guys kind of do some demographics, heat maps, patient
We
demographics.
do full onboarding, understanding the practice, how many physicians, how many mid-level practitioners, how much staff, how much space they have. We get their leases and do full abstracts of their leases and their occupancy cost analysis at that, the current occupancy cost. We do questionnaires of what they think they need. Drill down into, as we call it in the medical field, how many butts and seats you need at a desk. Literally fine tuning it all the way down. Where does your staff live? How many of them are traveling in? So if they are coming in from outside the metro area, how easy is it for them to get to where they're going? And then also, especially with the zip codes, we find this a lot. Physicians, medical practices, medical practice managers will say, oh, most of my patients come from this area right here. So when we do the heat maps, they find out, that is one of my top areas, might not be my largest.
Yeah.
It may, I didn't realize my second largest pocket was from this area. So it really helps to identify, do we really want to stay as one solid practice, one location, or should we stay where we are? And maybe our growth is taking the medicine to the people and doing some satellite clinics. So it kind of gives the big picture. After we onboard them and we collect all that data, we then sit down with the clients again and show them what we found. If, let's just say we're all rolling onto a real estate deal in this case, at that point, we have now assessed through that questionnaire how much they need. We've helped tweak the square footage, the area, etc. And then at that, our business partner, Peter, then starts looking at site selection, combing the market. He always has his finger on the pulse of what's available and where. A lot of times we love finding off-market deals because if there is a full redevelopment, a lot of times that tends to be a better market value for the client. So Peter will go through and he puts through in a software of all the properties that he found, whether even if we look at them and go, that's an awful property, we put all options in there because we feel like they need to see everything out there, whatever fits their constraints, what they need to spend, what the square footages they want, the whole, not whether they own it, whether they lease it, whether we find an investment group or a developer to own it, purchase it, and do it. All of that information's in the software, and we review it with the client, and they're able to go in and say, interested, not interested, absolutely not. Oh my gosh, that's the best thing I've ever seen. Once they have ranked, we will go through every property with them, because sometimes, this happened yesterday, physician said, yeah, no, I don't want to be there. And we pulled up the building. We're like, well, here's the inside. Well, you know what? Maybe we should look at that. Yeah, it is for consideration. It still may be an absolute no once we see it, but it helps you. It's kind of like looking at houses. It helps you hone in more of what you want, right? As opposed to just having this one thought and going right to that one place. Once the real estate, Peter handles all of the proposals, LOIs, lease negotiations, etc. And as he's working on that, Rich is doing a lot of the financials of this is what it's going to look like. If you build, here's what your occupancy is going to be. If you lease, if you want to own, here is what the pro forma looks like. This is how it will, how your money will perform, which is always the funny thing with us is because when we go and we run pro formas, especially with the docs that wanted to own their business or their office, we say, and here's your equity requirement, and that equity's got to be under your pillow. That cash, it's got to be in your back pocket, in your backyard. It can't be, that's not going to necessarily. That's not finance. That's not Don't go leverage every one of your houses so you can come up with this money. I mean, that would be a poor business decision, right? That's how you get upside down. And if they can't come up with the full equity, we also will work to backfill the investment for them. So they can be a part owner. We help them write, or not write, but look at their operating agreements. So the physicians group can still be in control of the investment, even if they're not even if they don't have the most money in it, right? The most investment in it. Right. Once all that does, so Peter's handling that, Rich is handling. I am at that point going back and doing, helping find architects, space planners, or I should say that backwards, space planners, architects, GC selection, figuring out what kind of equipment, FF&E, furnishing, all the way to x-ray equipment. And I am helping gather and get all that schedule together so that as soon as we can swing that first hammer, I will then quarterback our whole team. I will become the owner, if you will. I'm the owner's rep to go in. I run the OAC meetings. I allow the physician or the practice manager to say, you're welcome to call in on the meeting. I'll video it for you. Or, this week, no reason for you to be there. I just need to walk it with the architect and the contractor to make sure everything's fine. Because our goal is for our clients to practice medicine and we'll do the rest. And so it's almost like a turnkey deal. We would like to say, we are done. Here's your certificate of occupancy. Here are your keys. Go save lives. That's kind of our way we want to help the client.
Yeah. Do what you do best, and we'll handle this side of things for you.
There's a term you used, Nancy, was total occupancy cost. And I think, again, I don't want to breeze over that because I think, I'm not sure, but I don't know that that's a widely used term in medical real estate.
You're right. And that's kind of also the thing that makes us different. We talked earlier about the budget, that these practices are really, it's a lot tighter, right? You can't just go get the extra client or up your bill to make ends meet, to keep the lights on. And what we want to present to our client is, what's your total cost? What's the check you're writing at the end of the month? So it is taking into account, your base rent, your CAM charges, your operating expenses, if you had to amortize any of the tenant improvement, all of that, and it adds up. And at the bottom line, this is what you're going to pay per month this year. And then with the escalation that's built into most leases, here is what you'll pay next year. And so we want them to be able to look over whatever the term is, even if they own it. If they own it, Rich said earlier, the practice is always the tenant. We will hammer that even if you own this building completely outright, the practice will have a lease with you, the owner, right? Because the practice is always the tenant, and you always have to protect the practice. You don't want to leverage your practice for the real estate. And so, even in that lease, you're going to have escalations, or maybe you have it flat for 5 years and then you up. But here is what your practice is going to write per month each year for where you're living. And, we'll escalate that cost of living We'll go up 1.5% on utilities. I mean, anything to make it where there are no surprises.
Mhm.
One of our number one calls, especially when I first started, I don't know why, but they would come to my line is, hey, how do I get out of my lease? Hey, I can't afford this. Hey, this wasn't negotiated, and now how do I get out? And those are the easiest calls I get, because the
Mhm.
answer is you don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
our goal is to protect you, so you don't call me asking me that question.
Right. Right. Those leases are written as such, right? You're not going anywhere without being heavily penalized.
Yeah, no, I think that's so valuable to a practice, to somebody who can come to the practice and go through those line items and actually help them understand what their costs are, what they're going to be paying, not just looking at how much this next lease is going to be, what the terms are, but actually, do you need to be in there? Do you need to, looking at all your operational expenses, everything. I think it's awesome that that there is somebody at, like your firm who can be contacted and a conversation be had around that to help them through that. Huge value, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys get some head turns. Like, I pay what on a monthly basis? It's very important to see. All right, this is the cash that's going out the door, and this is what each opportunity looks like, and see what makes sense.
And you guys are you're based out of Birmingham, but you're all over the country. Or I know you've done projects in the Pacific Northwest, Southeast. Do you have a region that you're focusing on?
Yeah, we love the Southeast because it's home. We are
And easy
Yeah,
for us.
home and easy. We're building out additional offices and we're chasing people, we're chasing talent. So when we see the right talent, the people who believe in this model, because it's not, this is going to sound kind of funny, but it's not a money making model. There are other subsects of commercial real estate where you can make a lot more money. So it has to be tied in with a passion as well. And it takes the unique side of pairing clinical experience and the medical experience with the real estate experience. And so we're building out additional offices, and the goal is to really have great coverage across the Southeast. We will follow a client or go where a client needs us. The three current partners are all CCIMs, which is a master's degree in commercial real estate. It's a great global network of other people who have received this designation. And so when we are in Oregon or Utah or New York, the first thing, Peter is responsible for the real estate element of it, our third partner. His first call is to highly likely a CCIM who we already have a relationship with in those markets. So we need to know that we really understand what's happening on the ground there and have that partnership. But the function of the medical practice, the decision making, the ability to correspond with the physicians and the practice administrators or the CEOs, that level of experience is what we can bring to the table if the practice is in San Francisco or Miami. It's the ground knowledge of the real estate that becomes a little bit more difficult and challenging. So we have a methodology to really be able to take care of somebody no matter where they ask us to go. But I think that we also understand you can't be everything to everybody. If we're really going to be great with all of our clients, we're going to be much more capable of that highest level of service in the Southeast. So I would say Louisiana, Tennessee, Carolinas, down to Florida is our sweet spot.
Awesome. And we're kind of wrapping up here. What would you say do you guys have a final tip or something that just you wish that somebody that contacted you would know? Do you have anything, any kind of a piece of advice?
The golden ticket, what's the one, I'm sure there's 15 of them.
Yeah, it's funny. When So we do teaching engagements across the South, where we work with practice administrators, CEOs. We've done some PIMBA programs, Physicians Executive MBA programs, where we get in with physicians who are already taking the leap of saying, hey, I need a better business background. I want to understand the business side of it, that decision-making matrix, far better than what they would have taught us in med school. And so we're really excited when we get to be able to get in front of those people, because they're already raising their hand saying, hey, my cup is not full, right? I need to know. And so what we would really look for is to remind physicians and administrators that you weren't trained for this, and it's okay. You're not supposed to know. You're not supposed to be an expert at it. And so it is real joy for us when we find, we try our best to find humility in what we do. And we love it when we're working with other people who find that humility to say, I am really good at orthopedic surgery. I am really good at pediatric allergy. What I will absolutely put into your hands or somebody else's hands is helping me make this real estate decision, because I don't get that world. And we look at them and say, you're not supposed to. There's no shame in that. So we wish that more people would say, you know what? It's not a badge of honor. It's not something that you were trained for. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It's okay to hand that off and to pick a really great general contractor, or to pick a really amazing architect, or a really amazing CPA or lawyer or real estate consultant who can help advise you through that. And then secondarily, when we do those education presentations, we actually have it in gold and say the golden rule. Nancy said it multiple times earlier. The practice is always a tenant. And so don't ever put your practice in such a bad position that you're trying to create this real estate opportunity, this real estate deal. And next thing you know, the practice has signed up for an obligation that it really never should have signed up for. And you've hampered the one thing that's gotten you where you are. So remembering that the practice is always what the focus should be. And if somebody has got just this hankering to invest in real estate and it doesn't make sense that it's combined with their practice, there are plenty of people across the country who can help them put their money in great investments, real estate investments even, that are secondary and totally separated. So we encourage our physicians to say, even if you are involved in the ownership of a building and you have ownership in the practice that's a tenant in that building, you've got to put up that Chinese wall and treat them as different businesses. And most of their advisors will agree. So most of the attorneys and CPAs that they deal with who have done it before will agree with that statement that, hey, the clinic comes first. That's your golden ticket. What you went to school for, what you are an expert in, is your golden ticket. Let's take care of that. And then just let real estate grease the skids of that world, instead of don't take that clinical world and overburden it to create some great real estate deal that has now got a myopic vision on what your goals are, if that makes sense.
No,
Mine's more
absolutely.
simply
Protect the
stated.
business.
Mine is just, or shorter stated. You don't know what you don't know. I mean, and I have to remind myself, I have had multiple careers, all in medicine, but different avenues of medical career, and there's still so much I don't know, and it's okay that you don't know what you don't know. And so my encouragement is it's an easy phone call, because you may find something you don't know, and then it goes from there. One of our most powerful CEOs, in my opinion, a female, runs a huge orthopedic, very well-known practice throughout the Southeast and the country, who sent me an email last night that just said, hey, I got this. It's an amendment. I am not doing anything responding. I'm not doing anything until you see it and you tell me what to do. this woman will knock the socks off of anybody in a business discussion. But she's good to say, hey, look, I don't know what I don't know, handle it. And that's our ideal client. And that's what we want to do, is we do want to help and serve.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been, I think, far exceeded the expectations that I was having, which was pretty high to begin with.
Thanks.
So wanted to thank you guys again so much for coming on here. We had a slew of questions we didn't even get to, so we
may need a part two.
We might have to have a part two. But just in closing, what is the best way for somebody to reach out to you or find you to connect with you with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, website, Veritas MRE, medical real estate, veritasmre.com. Veritas means truth. It's core to what we do. We feel like that everybody deserves the truth. Everybody deserves the correctly founded truth, which is based in service. It's based in doing what's right for others. And so veritasmre.com.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you guys again for coming on the show, and we'll see you on another episode of Blueprints to Punch List.